Good evening, everyone. This is the Town of Brunswick Planning Board meeting for November 17th. If everybody please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight's agenda is as follows. This was posted on the town website and the town board. Number one is Sagebrook Associates minor subdivision. Applicant seeks minor subdivision approval to create 3 new building lots on property located at 48 Spring Landing Boulevard. Public hearing will commence at 7 p.m. Sagebrook Associates Incorporated is the applicant. Number 2 on our agenda, this is a sort of an ongoing thing. It's a proposed Brunswick zoning law amendments, and this is a referral from the town board for review and recommendation. And you also have some new business to discuss with CBE North America. And that should be it. Okay, first on our agenda is the public hearing for Sagebrook Associates. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear concerns, comments, and views from the general public regarding a particular proposal or application. All public hearings are electronically recorded, and a written record of the proceedings is generated. In most cases, this written record is included with the minutes of the planning board regular meeting, which is usually conducted immediately after the public hearing. The applicant will be required to respond to all concerns and comments made at the public hearing, and subsequently, the planning board will consider all concerns and comments when evaluating the application to ensure that the applicant has addressed all the issues in question. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. The notice of public hearing will be read by the planning board attorney. Next, the applicant will give a brief presentation on the proposal and will provide any updates on the application. Upon completion of the applicant's remarks, the chairman of the planning board will recognize persons from the public, and these individuals will be allowed to speak, offer their concerns, comments, and views. Since the proceedings of the public hearing are electronically recorded, it is requested that all speakers step up to the podium, give their name and the address for the record, and all speakers will be heard. At this point, the notice of public hearing will now be read by the planning board attorney and the buildings.
Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the planning board of the town of Brunswick at 7 p.m. on Thursday, November 17, 2022, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180. To review an application for minor subdivision submitted by Sagebrook Associates, Inc. to create 3 new building lots on property located at 48 Spring Landing Boulevard. Copies of the application and supporting documents are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing. This was published in the Eastwood Press, placed on the town signboard, posted on the town website, and mailed to owners of properties within 300 feet of the project site.
Thank you. At this point, the applicant will step forward and give a presentation. Please address your comments to the audience and give us any updates if there are.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You stand over here or directly in front of the podium?
Well, that's fine.
Okay. Good evening, my name is Matt Bond with Farber Engineering. We're here on behalf of Sagebrook Associates, presenting this proposal for a minor 3-lot subdivision. So this is a 22.7 acre parcel. Actually, sorry. This is a 22.7 acre parcel that's being proposed to be split into 3 separate parcels, with the smallest being about 2.5 acres. This area of zoning is 25,000 square foot minimum, which the smallest lot well exceeds. We're also proposing setbacks that meet or exceed the current zoning requirements. So there are no variances or waivers being requested with this. Like I said, 3 separate lots. There's not public water or sewer available here, so they'll each have separate on-site utilities, drilled wells, on-site septics. Separate driveways are shown, everything meeting code requirements. There's no proposed disturbances to any, there are wetlands on the property which were identified previously. No proposed disturbances to those wetlands. And I think I already covered too that all the zoning requirements were well within the zoning requirements for minimum setbacks, things of that nature. So no major updates since the last time we presented to the planning board. I think there was one minor question about driveway, neighboring driveway, and that's been satisfactorily taken care of. So with that, I'll turn it over and.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I will entertain anyone who wishes to come up and make any comments or have any questions for the applicant. Everybody come up at once now. Now, this is, you like,
Yes.
no, you can speak to us.
My name's Diane McGurk, I live at 95 New Hampshire. I'm curious, this is considered a 3 lots minor subdivision, but it's really an annexation of a major subdivision, Spring Landing, isn't it?
In essence, it is, yes, but this was a separate parcel that was
So it's not included in the original
not as far as I know.
land purchase.
Can you answer that?
I don't believe it was. I believe this was a separate parcel of land.
So therefore, it does not require a roadway from the major subdivision into this
No.
portion. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to come up and make any comments?
Steve Shepherd, 23 Cricket Court. I just have a question about, in Spring Landing, we're all well aware of the water problems and how there's some wells that are almost dry and some are on the aquifer and the pine. So I'm wondering, with 3 more wells drilled pretty much right in the back of all of our houses, is there any concerns with water levels decreasing for other wells that are okay now? And the second question I had was, on the cul-de-sac there, are there gonna be 3 separate driveways coming out, or is it kind of one and then it branches into the 3? Those are the questions I have.
Do you have anything else, or you?
If you'd like to comment, that's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you for your question. So, in the existing subdivision, the lots you see are much smaller. So the wells are relatively close together. That might be part of the issue, if there's anyone who's having water supply problems. These are hundreds of feet away from the neighboring wells, as opposed to some of these, I believe, when they put them up on the survey, because that was part of the requirement to make sure we meet any setbacks from septic systems versus existing wells. And some of the neighboring wells are pretty close together. But these should be well out of any point of influence from neighboring wells. And on the driveway question, we're showing that it's possible there is sufficient road frontage to construct 3 separate driveways. Ideally, it would be 1 driveway. Then if there were issues with neighbors down the road, things happen, people don't want to stay friendly. there's the ability to build 3 separate driveways, but the owner would like to keep this one driveway, and I'm assuming he would too. Yeah, yes, yeah, we definitely would like to keep it one driveway, and then have a branch off with the appropriate turnouts for fire safety and things like that, and have a branch off to separately to each lot. Is that cover it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you just tell us what the previous issue with the driveway was that was resolved at this point?
If you'd like to make a comment, please come up so you can give your name and address for the record.
Tom Keel, 43 Spring Landing Boulevard. I'd just like to know what the previous issue with the driveway was that's been resolved with this, that was alluded to earlier.
I can show you right there, actually. So this neighbor's driveway actually encroaches upon the property.
Gotcha.
So the property owner and that property owner had a discussion and wrote, I'm sorry, Mr. Gilchrist, you recall? What there's an agreement written.
It's a license agreement, and now there's been a note added to the plat to identify that it's subject to a license agreement.
Yeah, just basically noting that is currently encroachment, and at any time, they can ask them to move the driveway. So, that's, yes. Anything else while we're up there?
No, it's just, that's a long driveway.
Yes.
Probably be looking for somebody to plow it.
Okay, is there anyone else? One more time, is there anyone else who wishes to come up and make any comments? Or have any questions regarding the Sagebrook Associates minor subdivision? Now addressing the board, is there any reason why we cannot close the public hearing? I didn't hear anything, making a motion to close the public hearing. I'll make the motion. And there's a second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing has officially been closed. We will now go to our regular meeting, at which point the first item on our agenda is the Sagebrook Associates. And we will further discuss that if you wish to remain here and hear that discussion. However, we have to do a little meeting business first. Our last meeting that we actually had was on October 20th. I have the minutes there. They have not been reviewed and approved yet. So I'm asking now that everybody look at those minutes. Is there any corrections, additions, or changes to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to accept the minutes as they have been submitted. Second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we had a cancellation at our meeting scheduled for November 3rd, so just for the record, there were no minutes presented, and there is no action taken. All right, now I will open up the regular meeting agenda, and the first thing on our agenda is the Sagebrook Associates minor subdivision. Come on up. We've heard several comments, we've addressed some of them. We would ask that there be a written submission to the comments, which you get the minutes that reflect the conversations and so forth and so on, just for our record. Even though you did answer most of the questions. Wayne, is there anything engineering-wise that has been discussed and not followed through on, or?
Plans have been reviewed by me. I did make some minor comments. They've been addressed. draft NOI for the split has been generated, so that's ready to go whenever they get approved and get that into, Bill, the stormwater coordinator. You guys send it, do you send it directly in? Is that how that works now? It's electronic?
Yeah, it's electronic.
But you still need to have the, what do we call it?
The MS4.
The MS4
Yeah.
acceptance.
Correct. Yeah, so we would send in a completed copy of that signed by the applicant. To be signed by the MS4 coordinator for the town. And we'd submit that all electronically. Everything's all electronic now for the DEC submission, so that would be included, required to move that forward and then get the permit. So prior to any earth disturbance activities, at least 5 days prior to any earth disturbance activities, that would be submitted.
And what is the status of the septic system reviewed by the county?
Yeah, the septic system, so I believe there's just a couple minor comments that the county had that our office is working on, and really I think will be cleared up in the next, well, the holiday, they might slow down a little bit, but I'd say a week or less otherwise. So, they should pass through a very minimum comments.
We did have some discussion on the driveways and widths because they're over 150 feet long. They have to do a wider, but you did put some turnouts in there as well, so there's no issue. The driveways, they all meet minimum standard for grade. We've been all through it. I think we're in good shape from a technical standpoint.
Okay. Andy, is there anything legally that has to be done now with that note 6 on there?
No, we wanted to make sure that that was on the plat, because if approved, the plat will be recorded and that note will be a matter of public record.
Everybody is familiar with the note 6 on the, which pertains to the driveways. The driveway encroachment is subject to an unrecorded revocable license agreement between the adjoining landowners. And that has been that satisfies any type of situation with the driveway being in the right of way. So, does anybody have any questions? Would we require that the applicant do the written comment in response to the public hearing? Can we, should we schedule this for our next meeting?
Would presume those responses would be submitted.
Would it be allowable to conditionally approve upon receiving those responses? Is that?
The board's procedure generally is having a full record in front of it and then.
In regards to some of the comments you made, will that information be available at our next meeting?
There won't be any changes to the plat. There's no changes. Any comments by the health department? They won't change like the location, septic systems.
Yeah.
So the plans, subdivision plans aren't going to change.
All right. Now, the comments on the public hearing will be available probably next week
Correct.
sometime. At which point you can just fire off a written response and have it ready for us for our meeting. Sure. And we should schedule for the next meeting.
December 1st.
December 1st.
We start off with the meeting.
I think that would be adequate time.
Yeah.
And then we'll have everything in order. We can move forward.
Okay.
All right,
All right, thank you.
we'll put you on the schedule for December 1st.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
you're welcome. The second on our agenda is continued discussion on the amendments to the zoning law. These mostly pertain to the multifamily changes. And what everybody recalls, we kind of let this kind of go off to the side a little bit, but maybe you could bring us up to speed here, Andy.
Sure. So what's been referred to you is not new. On the previous referral, you'll recall that there were a significant number of proposed zoning law amendments. And the town board did hold a public hearing, did receive public comments, and has not moved forward at this point, hacked on all of the proposed zoning law amendments that continue to be under review. But in particular, with the two-family and multifamily, the town board did want to move forward and have that addressed. That's what really prompted the initial efforts to amend the zoning law. And so what's been done is those proposed amendments were culled out from all of the proposed amendments, and they now are set forth in their own standalone proposed local law. This is the new introductory local law 6. There have been no substantive changes to the proposed amendments on two-family and multifamily. The density requirements that we previously went through are the same, they're included, but all of the additional amendments that you had the opportunity to review and discuss, those are not being pursued at this point, but there was an attempt to get the two-family and multifamily issue addressed. Procedurally, when this new local law was introduced, even though you've seen it before, there is a requirement under the zoning law to refer it to your board. So technically, this has been referred to the board. It has been referred to the county again for county recommendation. And the referral to this board, and if you have any comments, the receipt of those comments is a procedural requirement before the town board can act. Town board did hold a public hearing on these proposed zoning law amendments. That's been closed, but they procedurally cannot act until we get the referral completed.
Okay. So we should discuss on the
Right, if there are comments you want to send over, and again, there's not a significant amount of change to the two-family, the multifamily. The zoning districts were reduced down to R40 only, and there's now a density calculation that's applicable. Recall that under the prior Brunswick zoning ordinance, prior to 2017, there was a 9,000 square foot per unit density cap per acre. And when the 2017 zoning law was adopted, there was no density cap added to multifamily. This proposed amendment would do two things: limit multifamily as an allowable use only in the R40 district, and add a density calculation. It's not based on just the arbitrary 9,000 square feet. Recall this proposal deals with the actual buildable area of the lot, and then determine the area in bulk table what the allowable number of units would be. That is in this local law because that's part and parcel of how to determine either the number of multifamily units would be allowable on the project site, and it also will apply to the number of lots to be created through subdivision. So it will add a density calculation for both multifamily units as well as residential building lots through subdivision. And that's the extent of the proposal. If you have comments on that, we'll get them to the town board. The next town board meeting, you do have one more meeting until that occurs, your December 1 meeting, and then the town board will be meeting on December 8th.
I have one question. Is this, how does this affect PDDs?
So there are provisions in particular to deal with PDDs. And there is a development density that's been provided within the PDD section. And
That's new. There's
that is new. And the way this is set up is that if there is public water and public sewer, then the number of allowable lots or units through the PDD process is entirely within the discretion of the town board.
Okay.
But if there's not public water and public sewer, then there's going to be the same density cap. But because it's a PDD, there's a proposed up to 25% density bonus. But that would be the upper limit, and that would limit the town board's discretion on the number of lots. So really the deciding factor is the utilities. If there's public water and sewer available to the project site or would be brought to the project site, then the number of units is within discretion of the town board. There's no upper limit. But if you don't have both of those utilities, water and sewer, then there's going to be in the zoning law, a cap on the number of allowable units even through the PDD process.
And it's not, if there was water but not sewer.
Correct. It's got to have both utilities. That's the way this is written. When the project site is served by both public water and public sewer, the town board may establish the allowable density in its sole and absolute discretion. But otherwise, there's that 25%, up to 25% density bonus.
So probably the prudent thing to do would be to have the board review this on their own.
Correct, and we'll put it on for the December 1 agenda with the goal, if you do have comments that you want to send to the board, we can get them prepared and sent to the board. In fact, if ultimately we have no comments, we can send a letter indicating we reviewed that and are in agreement with the terms and offer no comments.
Okay. Or we could offer no comments at this point.
That's correct. That's correct.
Is everybody, we should review this one more time before we make a recommendation on it? Okay. So I would ask that everybody kind of, at their leisure, take another look at this. If you have any questions about it, immediate questions probably could be answered by myself or Andy. And
Andy, can you get a copy of that standalone document?
we do have.
Yes, it was referred over. If you need another copy, that we can. I'm going to hand you out mine right now. Just so you have it before the meeting, yeah. Did the other board members, yeah?
I don't have it at my,
I got
Once again, today's mail.
Hopefully not, it was sent out November 4th.
Did you get anything else in your mailbox, Doug, that wasn't for you? Just send someone else.
No, nothing sent out.
I'll get a copy of this made for you.
You got one for you? Sure. Why not, just to be on the safe side.
Rattle the ball off.
Yeah, roll off. All right. So we will defer that to our December 1st meeting. So we now have completed our agenda. We have both items are going to be the Sagebrook Associates and the proposed Brunswick zoning law amendments discussion going to be on our agenda for the next meeting. And under new business, we have CBE North America with us tonight. And just to give a little bit of a introduction for you, this involves obviously a new proposal for a community solar farm. As everybody knows, last, on the 15th, there was a public hearing conducted by the board to discuss a moratorium on solar projects. There was a lot of discussion there. There were several things that were brought up involving, the substation capacity, what they call the queue, being on the queue as far as being on a list to be able to hook into these substations and stuff like that. So in the process of you giving your presentation, I may ask you to elaborate on a few things that we discussed this morning. So why don't we start with your presentation here?
Sure.
Just one other thing, I'm sorry. The referendum to put on the moratorium was not voted on because there was a lack of response from Webster County on that?
That's correct.
Okay. So that would be brought up at the next meeting?
That's anticipated, correct.
Okay. So now, there is no moratorium in place, so now we have to
Right, to town.
basically address these applications as they've been submitted to us.
Yeah.
That's why Carson is here with us tonight, so
Yep,
the floor is yours.
appreciate the introduction. Great to see the planning board again. I'm Carson Winan, Senior Business Developer with CBE. I'd like to introduce you to our new project, our new Chesney Avenue project. Just as a refresher real quick about CBE, we're headquartered in New York City. We're about to start construction on 13 community solar farms totaling 72 megawatts in upstate New York over the next 3 months. We've raised $170 million for those projects for this New York portfolio. They're all community solar. They all have a focus on giving the savings to low-income customers. And yep, so about 10% on their monthly bills every month for the next 25 years.
Now, there was a number thrown around at the public hearing, about 1,400.
Yeah, so for this McChesney Avenue project, it could service about 1,400 customers.
And this is all directed towards low to medium.
To moderate, yes, income. There's new federal incentives that incentivize to deliver the savings to those types of customers.
So potentially, there would be maybe very little impact on the residents of the town of Belleville.
There are some low-income areas. We have a map of the low-income areas. We're allowed to deliver these savings, these energy credits to anybody, any customer in National Grid, so long as they're a customer of National Grid. 80% of the state average income. Yeah, so for the family, I think for the family, New York State average median family income is 80,000. So if you're 80% of that or lower as a family unit in your residence, you would qualify. So,
But you would have to buy into community solar as an option on your.
yeah, you'd have to sign up to receive the credits from us. And National Grid allocates those credits directly to your bill now, one bill. It's something called consolidated billing. Previously, they'd have to pay us for the credits in a second bill. That's no longer the case. It's all seamless now. Their bill is just less money by way of the credits. So, yeah, and we've started to fill up these 13 projects I just mentioned with customers and having no trouble getting full subscription, 100% subscription of each project very quickly.
And this project is included?
This project would be included. We're not there yet.
Okay.
It's not far enough along in development to start actually signing customers up, but
Who could be a customer? Somebody in Oneonta?
Yeah, anybody in National Grid, which goes from east to west in upstate New York. We have projects in Buffalo that are National Grid. One of the things I mentioned at the moratorium public hearing was that, we can make an effort to secure these customers locally within the county. We can make a commitment and you can trust us, or maybe there's even some mechanism with the town, maybe a condition on our special use permit that we need to secure all of our customers for this McChesney Avenue project within this county and maybe the adjacent counties. This way, there's a little more confidence that it's actually benefiting those closest to the project.
I think we would probably, move in that direction.
Yeah.
Just as a clarification,
Yeah.
your previous project on Bel Air, that did not have that requirement on it, the low to moderate income.
Well,
Is this the first project in this area as far as the solar farms are concerned?
so it will, all the customers will be low income. Because of these new federal incentives, which have come out over the past 6 months.
Okay,
Previously it would have been a mix, probably most likely a scenario where there's 40% going to a C&I customer, small. Maybe the Hannaford, for example, they would take 40% of the credits, and then the 60% would be the individuals.
okay.
And now it's just all individuals and all individuals that meet a certain income eligibility level.
You identified all these people? How do you get in touch with them? How do they know?
Yeah, I know. And we hire an outside company that does this full time. That's all they do. Their name's Arcadia. We've executed a contract with them to go out and source these customers just by traditional marketing methods. Emailing, newspapers, online ads, knocking on doors, sending mailers. Yeah.
So you gotta be, so what's the 80%?
80% of the state median income is,
So what's that, 64,000?
yeah, for the family or below.
And somebody lives in an apartment or, you don't have to own your own home. You just have to have
Correct.
a National Grid bill.
Yes, correct. Yep, and that's sort of where the whole community solar concept started, was allowing people in apartments, for example, to benefit from solar because they have nowhere to put it.
And you don't have to, we've had public hearings here, we've had people from Boston Spa come down and from Malta, and I want to sign up for this solar field that's going in on 278. So it's not, you just sign up wherever you are, the solar is built
Wherever
wherever
it
it
is.
is. and-
Yeah,
Is this the hired outside solicitors, I guess would be the word? Is that the way that these businesses usually do this?
yeah.
I personally, I remember receiving maybe one thing in the mail
Mhm.
about the solar. I think it was a company by the name of,
Nexamp.
what is it?
Nexamp.
Yeah, Nexamp.
Yeah.
All the ones that
I
we
can check his mail.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of National Grid customers.
Yeah.
There's millions of National Grid customers. And only in the last 6 months has there been a focus on low income.
Well,
Yeah.
I know you guys go out and you have the people that do this. I'm just trying to figure out, why my mailbox hasn't been full.
Sure.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I haven't signed up for this, because I haven't
Yeah.
really had an opportunity to.
Well, I can put you in contact with some of these providers and you could sign up.
No, I just fill over the top. All right, well, I could, but I don't, now I don't have the income.
Better sign up quick.
Yeah, there's that. All right, I mean, you know, that's, I mean,
Yeah,
I think a lot of times the board doesn't realize how the mechanism works to do this.
Yeah.
And now when you had this announcement at the public hearing, that this was now a new program.
Yep.
I'm like, whoa, wait a second. You know, this is really complicated thing. I don't know what,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, yeah,
I mean, I personally like what you said, you know, a few minutes ago regarding, I think that, you know, the target area ought to be the town and then the county,
sure,
maybe surrounding county. I
yeah,
mean, I'd hate to see, you know, 1,400 customers from Plattsburgh, you
sure.
know, getting credits from our solar field. I mean, that may sound crazy, but there's something wrong with that, to me.
Yep. Yeah, it's
And I'm
not,
sure you've had this argument in all the presentations all over the state.
yes, I've heard this, I've heard it before.
Okay.
Yes, totally fair
I know.
point. It's called community solar, your community, you know, not the Plattsburgh community.
Solar around
So,
It's not on.
Yeah. Now, what I really need to maybe elaborate on before you get into your full presentation
Mhm.
is how you guys get into the grid
Yep,
and how you get on these lists and so forth and so on. And what the capacity of our surrounding substations are and so
Sure.
forth and so on. If you could just kind of give us a little bit of a
Yep.
view of that.
yep. So there's limited infrastructure with National Grid. There's only a certain amount of power lines called feeders because they feed into the substation. There's only so many substations.
Okay?
Not every piece of land has access to a power line. So there's a huge swath of parcels out there, huge majority of parcels out there that are not even eligible to interconnect. The parcels that are located next to power lines, they have to take into consideration the capacity that's available on those power lines. Power lines can only accommodate so many megawatts, and the substation can only accommodate so many megawatts. The National Grid publishes publicly available two sets of data. First, the hosting capacity maps, which show their maps of the grid that show how much capacity they can host, how many megawatts are available, connected, and in the queue. And then they show a more detailed, there's a separate set of data that's more detailed. It's the entire interconnection queue. And you can learn when each application was submitted, how far along in the process they are, have they got the results back, have they paid their deposits, are they constructed? So between all that information and looking at the town of Brunswick, there's really no more capacity left. This is on the distribution infrastructure. This is separate from the transmission lines that were brought up on Wednesday, and that's something I don't have visibility into. Those are for the really big projects, and those really big projects even circumvent local zoning, because there's a state process for getting those cited. But for the community solar projects, on our type of power lines and substations, the distribution infrastructure, yeah, there's no more left.
And this is on the queue?
Yeah, what's that?
This project?
Yes, it's in queue. Yes, these are in the queue.
I will say one thing, this doesn't pertain to his project. Atlas Renewables is also in the queue.
Yep.
So there's another one here that's already lined up, which probably took the remaining part of that capacity.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any other solar entities on the queue.
Yeah.
How do we find out who's in the queue?
They publish the queue and they list the name.
Because I've been looking for it. And I even got it in a grid. I can't find it.
Okay.
Where do they publish it?
Sure, I'll email it to you.
What substation are you going into?
The Sickaway substation, just
What
south of.
about, what about the substation over on 142?
I'm not sure where 142 is. There's 3 substations in the town that have land that can actually be used for solar. The Sickaway, which is the largest, then Brunswick, which is east of us, east of McChesney, and then there's the North Troy one. And they're all at capacity. There's a couple of substations in city limits that they have capacity, but they service all the buildings, all the grid. And there's no land, there's no way you're getting a project in. They have capacity for a reason, because no developer has found a way to submit an application, find a site, develop a site.
Is there anything in National Grid's future plans to put new substations in?
Not that I'm aware of. That would be nice. You know, they would have to extend the power lines as well. That one of the major limiting factors is power lines can only accommodate so much too. I'm not aware of any major overhaul from National Grid to add more capacity.
Would
Right now.
large building developments have to get into the queue?
Meaning like value space, when they put all the solar on top of value space?
Yeah.
I got a connection agreement from them, but I don't know, where they were in the queue. I'm
What
Not
about,
certain
what
exactly.
about like a large project like say, Global Foundries put a small plant?
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah, if we were to put a 1 megawatt site on the Hannaford, on the roof of the Hannaford, that would need an interconnection agreement. They'd have to submit and get in the queue and be studied by National Grid.
I don't understand. The diagram says here,
Yeah,
no interconnection capacity available. What are they doing?
that's taking our project into consideration. There's no more available applicants.
They're the last one in line.
Yeah.
They're on the list.
Yeah, because if a developer came in behind us, they wouldn't be able to do anything. Because we've reserved the capacity left. They can't jump us.
So there are basically 5 companies that have spots reserved on that. There may be.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
only 3 of them are putting in applications to actually build.
correct. You need to submit an application to reserve capacity. There could be a scenario where there's additional applications, but they have no shot at getting connected because at a certain point, all the capacity will be allocated for. You know, let's say there's 10 megawatts of capacity available, and I submit an interconnection application for 10 megawatts. Somebody else can submit another application, but they have to wait for me to drop from the queue. It doesn't matter. Their application's just sitting idle there. And they'll never interconnect unless we drop.
So if somebody's in the queue, how long can they stay in the queue
Yeah.
and keep that reserve?
A couple of years.
2 years?
Yep. Eventually there's deposits due, but if you have any hope that your project's gonna be built, you can pay those deposits and keep it going.
Okay. I think this is important information to know because, we talk about it, and other solar companies come in here and they talk about, capacity and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And, we had a general idea,
Yeah.
but to be honest with you, the thing about being in the queue and on a list and reserving spots, we could have a host of these, solar facilities that all of a sudden are sitting there on the queue just waiting to what's gonna happen today or.
Yeah, I think a good question to ask any solar applicant is, have they submitted for interconnection? Is their capacity available? Have they received a study from National Grid? So
And you've done all of
we've done all those things.
So how much room is left?
None.
Not, now, you're using absolutely every
Yep.
bit of the available.
Unless
And
some-
it's not true, right? You've submitted for it, but you're not using it.
We're not using it. We've
But
submitted an
nobody else can submit for it because you already have submitted for it.
We've gone through the study process with National Grid,
Right.
which is a major milestone. We've gotten the results. They've calculated how much we can connect and at what price. Now they let us get everything else in order. And eventually they require us to pay deposits.
Okay. All right, with that being said,
Yep.
let's assume that this is the last one. And, of course, we did have our Atlas Renewables.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with that gentleman?
Yeah, I've heard their name before. Yep.
And they have one proposed, it's actually a property between Brunswick Road and Chesney Avenue. It has legal access from Brunswick Road to the Clarkson
Mhm.
Bridge, which is gone. So they have to get an easement to come across from the Chesney Avenue. There's a landlocked piece of property, and it's in the middle of nowhere, so to speak.
Did they get the easement?
I can't answer that question.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, we got a letter from the owner of the property, wanting us not to put it was presented at the public hearing at the town board for the moratorium. And she asked that we not put a moratorium. Because the negotiations with the company. So, that's somebody else's business. They're in the queue.
Yep.
So they must have done their work already on this. So this isn't something that just all of a sudden happened. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
It's the first thing we do after we get site control. After we've secured the land with the landowner, the first thing we do immediately is submit for interconnection. Because it is first come, first served.
Have you secured this land, Regions land?
Yes.
You've already bought it?
We have an option to purchase it.
Okay.
Do you know how many projects are on the queue that are not developed?
I mean, not constructed.
Well, I mean, you're just showing up now. I mean, there could be other people who have done all the National Grid stuff and secured but haven't proposed to the planning board.
Right.
I mean, there's,
Yeah.
I think we have to get the list.
Yeah.
The list will show you who's been constructed and who hasn't. For the projects that are in the queue that haven't been constructed, I don't know what their status is beyond that.
I mean, yesterday you were on the queue, but I mean, we didn't know anything about it. Is there somebody, so you're the last one, maybe there's 3 or 4 projects that are on the queue and are not to the point of submitting.
Right, that maybe haven't showed up to the board yet. I would think that's pretty rare. If they have good interconnection capacity, they're probably racing to get it done, but maybe.
Maybe. All right.
Well, it seems like if you got the queue spot, you got some power. I mean,
Does anybody?
Right, but
Go ahead.
yeah, eventually you have to pay the deposits and then eventually they'll kick you out. You do have power, though, when you have a queue spot.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your patience in going through the queue process.
Yeah.
And why don't we go back to business at hand? Why don't you go ahead and give us what you got here?
Sure.
Can I ask a question, Russ, regarding the, on your internet, you claim you have 100% subscription. You have 3 townships that have the exact same number of subscribers. There are, what is the relationship to Homes Powered to community subscribers?
So what, I'm sorry?
The Homes Powered that you estimate to community subscribers. Your field
Yeah.
is say for round numbers, six, well, it's gonna be over 5 because you're breaking into 2. We'll call it
Yeah.
5. How many community subscribers are you going to have for a 5 megawatt system?
My rule of thumb has been 1,000.
1,000. You have no subscribers on your website over 192. You have one field of 6.8 meg, 192 subscribers. 6.5 meg, 192 subscribers.
Well, that could be the scenario where the commercial CNI is taking up a huge portion of it. So there's fewer overall. I'm talking individuals.
But do you think that's accurate? You have actually 3 townships with the exact same number.
I'm not updating the website, I'm sorry.
All right.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what projects you're referring to.
West Hampton is 6.8 meg, 1263 potential for powered homes with 192 subscribers. Been in operation for 3 years on 21 acres.
Yeah.
New Marlboro off of Knight Road, 6.5 megawatt. 1157 homes powered, 192 subscribers.
Yeah. Those are all Massachusetts projects.
Tolland, yeah, 1239 homes powered, 192 subscribers.
Yeah.
Now, everyone that I've spoke with at these townships that I've been able to reach, none of them had anything to do with the IDA or coming in for for special compensation of no sales tax and any of that. Where I think you claimed on Tuesday night, 13 of the projects you have, we were the only one to deny that. Now, I did not, out of all of the people I've spoken with on these, none of those were offered to an IDA or anyone else. You had one municipality in that where they had absolutely nothing and just did a flat rate for the pilot. So that's another discrepancy I just wanted to bring up.
Yep, those are Massachusetts. Are you calling those towns?
Yes, yeah, that's
those
what
are
the only thing you have on
Massachusetts.
your website. You
Yep.
you claim you have 13 projects.
Me too.
You only have 9 on your website, so I need to know what the remaining are.
Yep. So I have never developed in Massachusetts for CBE. I haven't been associated with those projects. Those were CBE North America's first projects. They've developed exclusively in Massachusetts for the first few years, and this is our second portfolio, this New York portfolio. I'm not making any numbers up. We 100% have 13 different community solar projects in New York, and we have 100% have 12 out of 13 IDAs that we've interfaced with, submitted applications for, and received resolutions for benefits.
Okay. Do you have that information on a
Yes,
website?
I'm happy to share that.
Do you have a
and
New York website?
we need to update our website. I'm learning now. The IDA is with the county. It's a separate agency.
Sure is, yeah.
That's my guess why the town wouldn't be aware of it. I'm not talking to anybody at the town about it.
But I would assume you would have to have a public hearing in a township somewhere nearby where this IDA is going to make these decisions.
Yep.
And none of these had a public hearings in
No,
Massachusetts.
they had public hearings. None of these 13 are listed as named projects on the website. But we had public hearings for all of the IDAs that we sought benefits at. And no town members ever showed up. They were all very non-controversial.
So do you think, you said over 1,000, it shows 192 subscribers. That's your maximum for 6.8
Yeah.
meg. Another question that I have is, we have issues in this township getting grants that are predominantly, if we had more low income housing, it would be easier to receive these grants. We don't have it. We can't get these grants for sewer upgrades, be it whatever infrastructure project we're looking at. So where are you going to find these people to sell the power to?
Yeah, I mean, if it's all of upstate New York, if it's all of National Grid, there are definitely millions that qualify.
Yes, but if you're going to hold it right to this community,
Yeah.
you're going to be hard pressed to get those subscribers.
We'd have to take a look at the maps and we'd have to estimate how many low-income subscribers are in the county. And that's why I'm asking if there is a condition, that there's a little bit of wiggle room to give us a little more.
Yeah.
reach.
I think you're gonna need it, because much like Russ, I have my Nexamp flyer right next to the, next to the door in a basket, which I haven't subscribed either. And I think that's, and I've talked with the gentleman in, I believe in Blandford, and I mean, some of these towns in Peru, I mean, that gentleman there is the supervisor, and he also does the transfer station. So he says he meets most all of his 300 residents at the transfer station every Saturday.
Yeah.
And they are elderly folks, and they just don't sign up for it because they don't know all about it.
Yeah.
So they, you know, that too is another bridge you're going to have to get over for the low income folks, because the you know, elderly are probably, you know, one of your target
Sure.
groups.
Understood. I mean, all good points. That's why we hire an outside firm and we pay them money, an upfront acquisition fee and an ongoing management fee. And they have to go out and educate and get it done. And they, so far, have filled up our projects. So,
Do you get a subsidy for having met the quota?
yeah, you get additional tax credits as opposed to a non-low income customer.
Okay.
And I'll follow up after this with the interconnection queue and our resolutions of benefits for all of the IDAs. We're the long-term owner and operator. My last bullet point here on the CVE synopsis was we're the long-term owner and operator of the Bel Air project, off Bel Air Lane. And we're really excited about that project. I feel like we're at a point where we are ready to pull the building permit in just a couple of weeks, potentially, definitely in January. At the board meeting on the 8th, it seems like they'll be reviewing the decommissioning bond, the stormwater maintenance agreement, and the pilot. So those are the three outstanding documents that we've gotten over the hill on. We've done a lot of good work with Andy, and that project is shaping up to be really nice. So this project at 511 McChesney Avenue, we're subdividing a 100-acre parcel. Yep,
It's McChesney Avenue Extension.
correct.
McChesney Avenue is about 3/4 of a mile long. The extension's about 10 miles long.
Yeah,
You're nowhere near McChesney Avenue.
I will include the extension. That's a good point. McChesney Avenue
You have it
extension.
correct on your projects.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So it's a total of 100 acres. We're subdividing into two lots. One will be 25 acres, the other will be 75 acres. The 75-acre parcel will hold a 4.95 megawatt facility. The 25-acre project will hold a 2 megawatt facility. It's zoned A40 with an agricultural overlay. So both allow for solar, large-scale solar by way of a special use permit. And the status is that we've submitted for interconnection. The study has been complete. We have active site control with Mr. Bejan to purchase the property. And we've submitted an application here, obviously, to the town. Drafted site plan and submitted to the town. So we're impacting about 25 acres on the eastern lot for our solar, impacting about 15, maybe a little bit less on the western lot. We're not clearing any trees. So just to the north of the eastern larger facility where the tree line comes in, that goes all the way back north to the lake. We're not touching any of those trees. All the setbacks are compliant. The frontage requirements are compliant as well. We will be seeking an area variance for 4 above ground poles, utility poles. We're using and improving, there's an existing access road, paved access road. So we'll be using the path of that access road sort of for the main segment of our road. And we held a Zoom info session with the butters on August 29th. We mailed notices to about 30 different neighbors surrounding the property, and we held an info session over Zoom to give them a heads up.
and answer their questions.
How did that go?
It went well.
What were their main concerns?
You know,
I didn't have to ask you that question.
What's that?
I know what the main concerns are.
You
I
know,
assume visibility was probably a.
visibility was one. How the bill credits work was another. We just gave them a general introduction to the project as well. Those are, yeah.
Yeah, but ironically, probably none of those 30 residents would qualify for this.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah,
Is that correct? I mean, yeah, I'm not trying
Yeah,
to
it's-
throw you a curveball here, but, you
yeah, we
know,
have a map and this is not in that area.
Yeah.
So,
explain
This would be the
briefly
farmer on the way
why
in.
this
Maybe
is,
that farmer on
it's
the way in.
divided
He's
into
got the
two
sheep.
because of
Might
the
qualify.
maximum of 5
Way farming is.
megawatts per site. Is that-
Parcel, yeah.
per parcel, 5 megawatts AC is the limitation for these types of projects.
Okay. And this is classified as community solar versus,
Utility scale.
yeah, okay.
That's why you got 2 lots?
Yep.
Now, I have one, I know there's a, what I think is a very nice residence on that. That can be eliminated, that residence?
That will be.
Is there something going on with that house right now?
He's living in it. That's all I know.
Somebody told me that it looked like they were removing the siding and stuff in the house already.
I'm not sure.
My question would be, I doubt it's you doing this to it.
No, I'm not sure. We're not removing the house already.
Okay, all right.
So when you purchase the land, you'll be getting a demo permit. And you're gonna have to do an asbestos abatement and all around the house. I don't know the age of the home, but.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll level it. There's a septic tank. We'll have to address that. There's a well. We have to make sure that we avoid that.
Okay.
So, we'll be planting screening, those bubbles on the site plan along the Chesney Avenue extension behind the homes closest to the facility. We'll be planting about 20 feet of screening. It's really not visible.
I was gonna say, well, you'll have the line of sight from Town Office Road because it's quite a grade there.
Yeah.
I don't know if
If
the
you're
homes will be
on
able to see it.
McChesney Avenue extension, there is a bit of a rise. You can't see it until you get around the bend. The bend, there's a couple of homes there that will see it.
What about homes on Moon Lawn and so forth and so on? They won't see that?
I'm not sure where Moon Lawn is.
And Moon Lawn is you continue on the Chesney Avenue extension,
Mhm.
you go into a T and then it goes over,
Mhm.
you take a right as you goes over to two. Moon Lawn is that T.
Yeah.
That goes up. And basically connects over to 278.
Mhm. It would depend on the elevation.
I would have to assume that we would need to get some rather
Visual.
detailed visual
Sure.
analysis of this from different locations and so forth and so on.
Yes, that's in the works. There is existing vegetation along the eastern and western property lines. There's no butters to the north, and then there's existing vegetation, which is also diagrammed with swirl marks on the plants. So the homes to the west definitely won't see it because of the elevation and the vegetation, and the homes to the east won't see it because of the vegetation. The homes to the south, there's 3 of them. They're looking up, direct shot to the field where the majority of the panels are going, and we'll be adding screening there to mitigate as best we can.
Now, I'm understanding that these are rotational type units.
Correct.
And how many panels do you have there?
Yep. About 16,000, 15,000.
Okay,
Correct. They're trackers,
okay.
which is different than our Bel Air site.
What kind of noise is that gonna make?
The tractors don't make any noise.
No.
What is it? I forget what the percentage of degree movement is per hour, but they just creep
They creep.
very slow.
So they face east in the morning, flat, about 5 feet high off the ground at noon. They're directly facing up. And then west in the evening, they get to a max height of about 9 feet in the morning and the evening when they're tilted the most. The edge is about 9 feet high.
What happens when they reset? And they gotta be back on the other side?
Yeah, at some
Get up
point
in the
they'll
morning.
be, I'm not sure.
We got all night to get there.
If they do it all at once.
So-
When we have the public hearing,
Excuse me?
when we have the public hearing, you send out a notice that everybody's within 300 feet.
Correct.
I'd like to see that boundary put out because, well, the whole town goes over. I think Chesley had an extension at one point or another. I mean, if it went out to 3 miles instead of 300 feet, I think.
I can start now and have it done next year.
Project this size, we need to publicize it. This is a big thing.
The law states 300 feet, Don.
What's that?
The zoning law states 300 feet. Notification within
Does the
300
zoning law
feet.
say we can't make an exception?
I guess we'd have to have how do you make an exception to the zoning law? We have to have another local law, right?
We'll look at
I
that.
think there's a way of publicizing the public hearing a little bit.
A lot of municipalities will go, rather than simply legal notice in the classifieds, will be a block in the paper, something like that, or they'll add it to a few more papers, so it's more visible. But
I mean,
quite frankly, I've never seen mailers out to the extent you just described. It's, number one, it's
not
extraordinarily
cost-effective.
costly for the applicant, and number
Well,
two,
I'm
it's,
thinking about the people who live out along Farm to Market Road
right.
that have that western exposure. It's gonna be right there.
So that there are some things the board may want to consider of making it publicized a little bit more. And as I said, that could be different websites, it could be Facebook, it can be a block ad in the paper as opposed to the classifieds. There's things that can be discussed when you get to that point.
All right.
Yep, the two northern blocks on the bigger facility are the most visible because they're the highest elevation. Not necessarily visible to the immediate abutters. I think it's very limited visibility for the immediate abutters. And that's really it. We're willing and happy to execute a pilot with the town.
Regarding the pilots, the folks that I spoke with in Massachusetts, the pilots are about double of what we're charging here. And they've been in existence, some of them for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, those projects we were working on them. CD was working on them 5-6 years ago. So they've been operational for a couple of years now. And there's a lot of different, very site-specific factors, different revenue streams. Those projects were more heavily incentivized in Massachusetts than here. So I'm not sure it's apples to apples. $6,000 a megawatt is high for New York State, from what I've seen across our other projects.
West Hampton was 13,905.
Yeah. That's not viable in New York State.
What's the intention for the remainder of the land? You're only using
Yeah,
30 acres of the 95.
it'll just remain forested and vacant.
Is any of the vacant currently being farmed?
Yes, there's a,
Would that be available for lease or rent, that property?
we're using all the land that is being farmed now with this layout. Everything that's being farmed now is cleared and we're using all of that cleared acreage. After we install our facility, the only vacant land acreage will be wooded to the north.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yep.
Does he have to apply for a subdivision if this is on two, has to be on 2 lots?
We asked Jared to put the information in for a waiver. I think why we have it in the office. They do have to do a
He's
subdivision.
got to apply for a waiver?
Because Jared's the applicant, right? Jared Lusk. Because
CBE North
that's
America.
Yeah, CBE is the applicant. It was submitted by
Jared.
Nixon.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see any application for subdivision, that's why.
I think Wendy called
Yeah, there will need-
yesterday.
You're right, there will need to be a formal subdivision
Does
of
it-
some type approval.
Does anyone know why there's a 5 megawatt max per parcel?
It's because these projects are designed to fit on the distribution infrastructure at a certain voltage of power line that really can't accommodate that much.
But so what you've done is split parcels where we've had other companies come in and split parcels. So your, voltage going onto the line is what it would be for a split parcel, which is 7.5, 8 meg, we'll say, but it's done in 5 megawatt parcels. What's going on to the grid is still 8,
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I don't understand the parcel split, because we have in our law, the buffer of 100 foot, around the whole thing. So that in effect would be, you'd be buffering between your 2 fields,
Yeah,
which is usually another variance, because what's the sense of buffering between 2 fields with 100 foot? Your solar field. So you get a variance for
setbacks.
removal of that buffer.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
And luckily, we have enough space here where we don't need that variance.
Right.
And the idea with community solar is that they are smaller projects. They're on the power lines that service more of a local distribution community. And because they're smaller, they can get closer to the people that are receiving the savings, that are receiving the benefits. Whereas the big projects that take up 500 acres, they can be out in the middle of nowhere. They can be with the transmission lines. They just sell wholesale power. So.
All right. Anybody have any other questions? I assume that you want to be probably put on our official agenda at our next meeting, just to move things along.
Yes.
And you also realize that if the moratorium does get passed, this is off the table.
Yes.
Okay.
So the next meeting is December 1st,
Who's
Yeah.
saying that?
and then the moratorium meeting is on.
Who's saying Beachian's property? Who's saying it?
Yeah,
Who's paying?
Yeah, who's got it?
Yeah, I mean, what we ask.
there's probably no way we're going to approve this.
Conditionally? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, what we ask is that from a moratorium perspective, we don't see the need for it because of the severe interconnection limitations. We just ask that, you still have the right to deny our project. You still have the right to vet all of the topics that they want to vet with the moratorium. You can do all the due diligence during our site plan review process. I think the mechanisms for the review that they're looking to do is already in place through our process here.
So you're saying regardless of the moratorium, we're just going to keep on going along soon?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
no, I'm saying that, they already have the mechanism to learn what they want to learn and to restrict what they want to restrict with regards to solar through the discretionary approvals that you have to grant here and through the due diligence that we have to provide here.
So you're basically putting an argument up that we shouldn't put a moratorium on it.
Yeah, you already have a way to block solar.
That'd be duly noted, I'm sure, in the minutes. All right, so we will put you on the agenda. We'll start moving forward. I think one of the things that we are obviously going to need is these simulation view things that you usually ask for.
Yeah.
And I think that they ought to at least go out to the first set of secondary roads, residents on those roads, like Moon Lawn, obviously the Chesney Avenue extension, stuff like that. Because the public's gonna ask, you're gonna get somebody on Farm Market Road, 351, that's gonna go, I don't care if it's 5 miles away, I can see it. So, I mean, we ran into that with the one on 278.
You get somebody on Dater Hill or Garfield
Yeah,
across the valley.
there's gonna be people there that, oh, wait a second, you're looking at one over on 278. We don't need to see another one. So, but I'll just give you a little heads up on that to maybe really take a good look at the surrounding areas where this is going to be an impact. It's on a very prominent hill. In that whole total elevation through there.
Understood.
Just one of the questions I have regarding, well, we were talking about 278 or Brick Church, the existing solar field there, fixed panels, and there is a certain time of the evening, sundown, when there is glare that shines all the way off into, where's Sip's house? Bolson Road. And that's with fixed panels. Now that you have rotational panels, you're going to have variances in the angle to the sun, which I assume at times is going to be able to create more glare. How can you generate that via a computer or try to judge where that's going to be?
Yeah. You can prepare a glare study, glare report. Panels are black, they're matte finish, they have non-reflective coating on them from the manufacturer. They're designed to absorb the light rather than reflect them.
Yeah.
I think if you measure them, the reflectivity, the albedo of them, it's less reflective than grass on paper. So I'm surprised to hear that somebody's getting reflections into their home because they really aren't that reflective, not reflective.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
And it is,
Yeah.
it is glare. Yeah.
Could it be off the framing?
Well, with these,
No, I'm
I know there's a heck of a lot of glass, there's a heck of a lot of framing, but it could be either way.
They're a few
It's
miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's a panel situation, there's certain things to address that. If it's the actual framing and the structure, you may have to paint those non-reflective things. You know what I mean?
Galvanized, right? Galvanized steel.
Yeah.
The panel is going to be dual panels in this case,
Yes.
because we have one other company that's coming in with duals, using this, what we'll call a sun tracker. It's really not, but, so there'll be duals on it.
Bifacial.
All right. And that's pretty much now everyone's going bifacial?
Yes.
That's what you're doing at Bel Air, right?
Yes, but that's fixed tilt. Because of the size of the property, you can fit more megawatts. The trackers take up a little bit more space.
One thing I would do, just like you mentioned, you at the public hearing, and it was also mentioned at the Delaware Avenue process about so much a panel is donated towards
Sure.
Education. You had put a few of those programs through on that project. Are those going to be also through this project?
Yes, that's on the slides. I didn't mention it tonight, but yeah, $1 per panel. We would donate, something we do on every project, the CBE Green Initiative.
Okay.
So about $16,000 would be donated to a local environmental charity
Okay.
or organization. Yeah. So and the 1,400 customers, they'd save over $4 million in energy savings over the next 25 years. About $185,000 a year with a 10% discount. The pilot would the total property tax for the 25 years of the assessed life of this project is about $986,000, just the solar facility. And then there would be additional taxes on the land. So over $1 million when you factor in the land taxes that we will pay over 25 years. The land will also be taken out of the ag exemption, be lifted, be a commercial use. So it'll be at a higher tax rate through that as well, so underlying land.
Okay.
Just a few numbers to mention at the end here.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
If you could just get me that list of the New York companies.
Yes.
We will see you
Which
on
companies?
the 1st.
Thank you.
Have a nice Thanksgiving.
You too.
Okay, the only other new business we have a special use permit application that we received.
Mr. Bernina?
Benina,
Yes, so that is the gentleman who came in for the lot line adjustment with his neighbor.
right,
Rather than using that other parcel that he gained to build on separately, he is going to put an addition on his home and live in it and allow his son and his son's wife to take over the house.
okay.
So let's see if
Accessory apartment, yeah, because there'll be 2 kitchens.
Okay, so we will put them on our agenda for our next meeting to review this.
Okay.
All right. So that is it for new business. Is there any old business?
There's, Wilson. Wilson Road.
Oh, Polson, yeah, they were supposed to be on our agenda tonight.
Still working on the easements from Nigro for the sewer line.
So should we tentatively put them on for our next meeting?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Okay. So that makes that there is actually 5 items on our agenda. I have the Sagebrook Associates coming back for their comments on the public hearing, the responses, I should say. We're going to look at the Brunswick zoning law amendment a little bit closer. CV North America is coming in, and Bernini, the special use permit that we just discussed. And tentatively, we will have Olson medical bill. Am I missing anything? Okay, does anybody have anything else they want to discuss? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
Warm.
Yes.